Hi, my name is Thais Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about what can begin to happen as you become more and more secure over time. And I'm going to tell you specifically some of the things that you'll notice as both a fearful avoidant, anxious preoccupied attachment style, and we'll even include dismissive avoidance in this process as well. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I see a tremendous amount of people becoming secure inside PDS, and a lot of people are wondering some very specific things. I often get the question, I feel like I'm becoming more avoidant when I'm used to being somebody who's anxious preoccupied. What does that mean? What's going on? Or dismissive avoidance going, I feel a little bit needy and vulnerable and it's a little bit scary. What's going on? And fearful avoidance will feel like they're breaking down codependency. They'll feel like they're not relating to people in a codependent way anymore. And it's something that we have to sort of get used to and pivot. And so for any of you who are also wondering this on the channel, I literally answer this question almost every single day in a webinar that we, like every single time we do a webinar inside PDS. And so I just figured I'd put it on here as well, because I'm sure some of you are wondering also. Before I dive into this, we are starting another 90-day challenge, March 1st of 2021. Our results so far from our first 90-day challenge have been 96% of people who joined the 90-day challenge completed 2 courses per month and completed all of the workbooks for each course that they completed, as well as joined into 2 live webinars a week, have reported becoming significantly more secure according to our tests and according to their introspection as well, and just noticing their different patterns within that 90 days. So very exciting data and news, and it really kicks off people's relationships into something new. So we're doing another 90-day challenge. People have gotten a lot out of it. We've got somebody who leads it, engages in our community, one of our community members, so you can check that out as well. We're very excited to be sharing that data. So okay, so this topic is something that comes up a lot. When we look at somebody who's anxious preoccupied, you want to remember that they are often relating to other people in a very codependent manner. And as they become more secure, one of the first things you'll see is limerence declines. Okay, the amount of like obsessive infatuation and living in the fantasy with somebody starts to go away a little bit. And it's a reflection of that person meeting some of their needs within themselves. Now, sometimes people will say things to me like, what if I don't like get feelings in the same way anymore? You're going to develop feelings for people and romantic interests exactly the same way a secure person would. Like, you're going to feel excited and joyful and interested and all these different things, but it just won't be in a way that's destabilizing. Now, a lot of anxious individuals will say to me, I seriously see this like every single webinar, I think I'm becoming avoidant. And what I always say to people is, what are you doing in the time that you're now enjoying spending alone? Because as anxious individuals start doing this deep work, and some of you might relate to this from this channel, you know, as you start doing this deep work, you start to stop feeling, you stop fearing loneliness. You stop fearing time alone, and you actually start to be able to get some of your needs met through introspective work, journaling. Like, you build emotional intimacy in the relationship with yourself, being checked into your feelings and needs, knowing what your boundaries are, standing up for yourself in the world, and being able to express your boundaries in a graceful manner, and being able to like really reconnect to your sense of self. Now, when the subconscious mind realizes that it's been out of relationship to self for so long, remember, like wherever we have a void, the subconscious mind is trying to equilibrate. It's trying to seek to fulfill that void. So when an individual who's been out of relationship to self for so long suddenly becomes in relationship to self, often what I'll see is they start like protecting their time alone a little bit more, not jumping to make plans and always be with other people, and enjoying feeling comfortable in their own skin and on their own time, and not feeling this like neediness or this sort of incessant like urgency to constantly like make plans and be busy. They can actually just like be at peace and be comfortable. And so what I ask people is, what are you doing in your time alone? You're becoming avoidant if you're avoiding your feelings, indulging in your creature comforts, like playing video games for hours or binge watching TV for days, that would be an avoidant thing because you're avoiding yourself. Avoidance is ultimately avoidance of self, which then extends to the avoidance of others, right? And avoidance of emotional intimacy of self. But if you are an anxious, preoccupied person and you're just suddenly enjoying your time to yourself, appreciating it, sort of like relishing in it and being a little protective of it, being like, no, I want to make sure I have some time to like be me and process and connect to myself and like have clarity and intentionality in what I want to create for the week and how I'm doing. And then those are all fantastic signs. And what's happening and why people often think that they're becoming avoidant when they're anxious is you're just moving to this, that you can imagine it's occurring along a spectrum of avoidance, right? It's like the absolute opposite of avoidance, that anxiety, neediness. You're just coming to center. So yes, you're going to feel like you're moving down the scale of avoidance, but it's not actually you being a dismissive avoidant or in a dismissive avoidant state, because there's no dismissing of your own feelings, needs, no emotional repression, no lack of emotional intimacy. In fact, you're actually building those things up. So I just thought that was really important to discuss. And then fearful avoidants have that as well. If they've been fearful avoidant, leaning more anxious, they often feel like when they're taking themselves into consideration and checking in with themselves, it's foreign. It's you're breaking codependency. And then they also share the dismissive avoidance side, which is this. Dismissive avoidants will sometimes say to me, I feel like I'm becoming a little bit anxious. I feel like I'm becoming a little bit worried or needy. And no matter what people want to say at the end of the day, no matter what people want to believe in terms of, I don't need anybody or whatever it might be, we are a very socially interdependent species. We are here to be able to rely on ourselves to meet our own needs, but there's a natural interdependency that will always take place. There's a natural wanting deep connection. We're literally biologically wired like that at our core. So while some people will play the avoidant role and say, I don't need anybody for anything, ultimately what you're going to find is as you heal, that turns around and you feel like you want to rely on yourself and others too. And you want this balance and homeostasis between these two things. And when dismissive avoidants start opening up and feeling their emotions, which literally there are many dismissive avoidants inside of the school who are showing up beautifully and doing this work profoundly and at very deep levels, what you'll see is that a lot of them will ask me, oh, I feel like I'm becoming anxious. Like, what's going on? It's normal when we start to learn to rely on others again after long periods of time to feel a little bit on edge about it, because there's a natural vulnerability that's just going to be there in our interpersonal relationships. But the trick and the difference between somebody who's feeling that vulnerability for the first time as they're stopping the emotional repression cycle and getting back in touch with themselves, the difference from this perspective is when I say, like, what are you doing with that time where you are feeling vulnerable? Well, they're processing their feelings. They're learning how to work through their emotions. They have confidence in the fact that they can identify and meet their own needs. And so even if there's a little bit of inherent vulnerability and interdependence, it's a good vulnerability, because it's not a vulnerability where your emotional state is dependent on how well another person shows up. It's a vulnerable state where if somebody is unavailable for a period of time, you trust yourself to be able to meet your own needs, communicate your needs again to that person, not take it personally and not build a whole narrative around it. And of course, if somebody is unhealthy and not able to have an interdependent relationship with you, back away from it. But we're often not seeing that as obviously somebody who's dismissive avoidant opening up. A lot of people tend to just really cherish that from their dismissive avoidant friend or family member or romantic partner. So know that it's in how you experience that vulnerability and what you know you can do with it that is the differentiating factor between becoming anxious or becoming secure. And as you're moving up that spectrum, you're moving along that line towards secure, where you have interdependency and you're in that middle ground. It's normal to feel like, okay, whoa, this is a little bit vulnerable, but it's not vulnerable where it's like, I need that person to meet my needs. And if they can't meet them, I'm stuck forever and I'm going to be, needless, or I'm going to have, none of my needs met. And there's also this awareness for this individual that if the person's not available, okay, it's a little bit vulnerable. It's new territory, but I'm not going to take it personally. I know how to work through my stories. I know how to process my emotions. I know how to meet my own needs. I'm clear about what they are, and I know how to communicate them effectively. And as you have that power in your hands, that vulnerability is a good vulnerability. It's a healthy vulnerability. It's the natural vulnerability needed to have healthy connections and relationships. So the FA obviously experiences a little bit of both, and that's shifting out of codependency. We explain the AA, we explain the DA, and hopefully that all makes a lot of sense to you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.